So, I want to talk about the biggest way that we block our healing. And that is when we believe that we shouldn't have the difficulties that we do. When we believe that we should already be free from the things that we're struggling with. I see this time and time and time again. And the important thing to ask ourselves is, why should we not have the difficulty that we currently do? The fact that we don't want to have it is natural. And yet, we often confuse that desire not to have a certain pattern or difficulty in our life, and we conflate it with the belief that therefore I shouldn't have this thing. It should already be gone. And especially when we have not wanted to have a certain pattern for a long time, which is usually the case, a lot of the things that many of us struggle with are not new, they're old. And so that feeling of not wanting this or not wanting to be this way is not a new feeling. And that can really augment this sense that because I've not wanted this for so long, it really isn't supposed to be here. And when we understand about conditioning, about the unconscious, about trauma, what we understand is that all of the patterns, all of the difficulties that we are currently struggling with are a result of our innate intelligence. They are the result of our unconscious taking on board certain patterns in order to protect us. And in fact, there is almost no symptom that we struggle with that does not apply to. And so it's really important to see that, yes, we don't want the difficulties that we have, but they have arisen from our innate intelligence. And actually, given the things we've been through, the life we've had, the environment that we've been in, actually our patterns are supposed to be there. That doesn't mean that they're meant to carry on being there. That doesn't mean that we can't learn how to transmute them, but we have to start from a place that says, actually, why is this not meant to be here? Actually, given everything I've been through, it's actually okay. It's meant to be here. So, one problem when we relate to our difficulties from a place that says you're not meant to be here is that we further our internal fragmentation. Actually, we could say that all of the patterns we struggle with are the result of some kind of internal fragmentation. And when one part of our being turns to another part and says, it's not okay for you to be here. You are not meant to be here. Clear off. Fuck off. Just feel into the energy of that for a moment. That is actually one of the ways that we perpetuate our own trauma. It's actually a way that we continue to abandon ourselves, and it really increases that sense of fragmentation, which is precisely the issue. And so the other thing when we do this, when one part of our being turns to another, you're not meant to be here, I should be free from this shouldn't be like this, is that we build internal resistance. And that internal resistance can never be a carrier for our healing. And in fact, what it does is it causes us to effort in our healing, because we're constantly pushing against something that we believe is not meant to be there. there is no healing without love. Love is presence. Presence and love are the same thing. And so when we can learn how to be in a state of presence with our beingness, to relate to everything that is coming up within us from a place of presence and love, we start to unify. We start to increase the flow of our life force, and we actually start to get a lot more coherent. And that is when a lot of these patterns start to be given the space that they need in order to dissolve. When we are always pushing against these things with a narrative that says you're not meant to be here, it creates this huge resistance which forces these patterns further down, smaller and smaller, into more and more constriction and frozenness. And what they need is to be given the space to be and to kind of complete themselves. So this is not an easy feat, right? This is why, to me, healing is such a spiritual journey. You might not want to use that word spiritual, use any word you like, but it really is a journey of us awakening, of us recognizing and learning how to create softness in our being. And there is no healing until we learn how to do that. So it's a really fundamental thing, and it's such a part of the journey. We often think the goal is for me to not have any suffering, to not have any difficulty. I'd say that's bypassing. That's an ideal of yourself or healing, which is usually a compensation. Suffering is part of life. Don't we want to be in life, in the world? The suffering isn't the problem. And actually, of course, we want to learn how to transmute and dissolve a lot of the patterns that we have, but that doesn't mean we're ever meant to arrive at a place of non-suffering. And actually, it's so much more about the journey of who we become in the process. And the healing is about really me learning how to be at one with my beingness, how to be with everything that is coming up in myself without me relating to myself in ways that make me wrong, in ways that reject myself, in ways that perpetuate my trauma and my sense of abandonment. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. As ever, you can leave me a comment below, or you can share this with a friend, or you can slip into my DMs.